folks, welcome to the Chicago Burlington and Quincy Railroad and the Chicago and Northwestern Railway in Wyoming. Today is May 3rd, 2025, and this is layout update number 66. I'm Mark Pruitt, Master Mechanic. No cheesy opening this month, just me, which is probably bad enough. In April, I had an operating session for which I didn't get any pictures since I was actually busy running trains on my own layout. Shock of shocks. I installed some of the Barina LED lights I'd ordered at the end of last month, narrowed the Lander benchwork to its final width, finally began building the ice house for Casper, spent a few hours in nearly fruitless research for the Walter Schultz Grocery Warehouse, and began installing power switches for the Casper engine facility tracks. We finished last month's update with some scenery work at Powder River. I didn't do any more scenery work there this month, but I did install 2 Barina lights. This is how Powder River looked before the lights were installed. The upper deck cast some shadows on the back areas of Powder River, especially the backdrop. This is how it looks with the lights installed and turned on. No more backdrop shadow, and the entire area is much more brightly lit. That last part's becoming more and more important as I get older and older. I also installed Barina lights at Greybull. This shot is without the lights. With the cardboard placed on top of the Lander benchwork to block the light from above, the shadows got pretty deep. With the lights, the shadows are gone and the car numbers are much easier to read. Many thanks to Steve for bringing the Barina lights to my attention. Since we're in the Greybull area anyway, let's talk about the work I did on the Lander benchwork. Alex, who operated the Greybull yard at the April 15th operating session, said it would be helpful to reduce the Lander benchwork width a bit more if possible. On April 22nd, after clearing everything out of the yard, I took down the center section of Lander benchwork again and narrowed it about another 1.5 inches. I'm glad I didn't narrow it any more. If I had, I would have had to create a whole new mounting method for the top of the threaded rods. As it was, I just had to drill a new hole in the existing mounting plate. By the end of the day, I had the center section rebuilt, reinstalled, and leveled again. The next day, I completed the end section. The last thing for now was to reinstall the Barina lights. I didn't make any changes to the diagonal-shaped far end section of Lander benchwork, which means there's now a corner where the diagonal section used to meet the old, wider rectangular sections. I figured I would just leave this as is, but it looks like, as the fascia would flow across that corner into the next section, it will significantly block the view of part of the West Greybull yard throat. Dave and Steve will be visiting next Tuesday, so I may put them to work rebuilding the diagonal to eliminate that corner. Lucky guys. Since I first built the engine terminal in Casper, all the tracks off the turntable have been powered all the time. That means all the locomotives parked in the Roundhouse, as well as the ones on the 3 garden tracks, are sitting there making noise all the time. I've wanted to put off switches on all those tracks for some time now. On April 24th, I dug out a bunch of old sub-mini toggle switches I'd used on earlier layouts and got started. These had been tortoise control switches in their past life, so the first thing I had to do was remove the mess of wiring that was still attached. I got 3 of them cleaned up over a couple of hours, then decided that was just too much of a pain in the backside. I ordered new switches from Amazon. Since these are just power switches, I thought about just buying single pole switches, but someday I might add surface mount LEDs on the Roundhouse to indicate which track is powered, so I got double pole switches. Price was the same as a single pole anyway. The switches came in on April 26th, so on the 27th I got started wiring them up. I daisy-chained the switches together at the workbench and added 3-foot feeder wires to each one as well. I did all the soldering I could at the workbench. The last day of April, I drilled out all the mounting holes in the fascia and mounted all the switches around the turntable control. All those wires hanging down have to be spliced to the individual track feeders. On May 1st, I began connecting everything together. These are the first 2 feeder splices ready to be soldered and have heat shrink tubing slid over the splice. This will take a few days because I have to find which track each feeder goes to from this terminal strip and connect it to the right switch feeder. In this shot, you can see that 4 of the feeders have been connected, 10 to go. Once they're all hooked up, I'll bundle the wires together with a few cable ties for neatness. While I was waiting for the new switches to arrive, I decided to start building the ice house for the Casper icing facility. I bought this Walther's kit off eBay way back in August of last year, so it was time to get started. Here's where the ice house will go. There are 2 problems. The kit house is too long, and it's designed to go on one side of the platform, whereas on my layout it will have to go on the end. Neither of these is a big problem. I'll just shorten the kit and place just one platform door rather than the 2 the kit was designed for. I measured the length I would need, then started modifying the kit by shortening the roof. I used my Micromark magnetic holding jig to ensure the trimmed roof was square and then applied some extra thin Tamiya styrene glue. Last step was to add a doubler at the splice to strengthen the joint. In this shot of the roof sections, you can see how much I shortened the first one. After I took this picture, I did the same with the second one. I'm not concerned about the rough splice joints because I'll be adding fine sandpaper strips to the roof so the joints won't be visible on the finished model. After I did the roof sections, I modified the base in a similar fashion. Then I trimmed the long walls to match and assembled the basic structure. I also assembled the roof cupolas, then stopped. Next step will be to paint all the wall pieces. A few days after that, I'll be able to continue with assembly. I think I'll be able to have the ice house on the layout by the next update, though final details won't be done until I get the platform itself painted and lighted. Don't hold your breath for that part. During the last operating session, my throttle bus went all wonky on us. I wasn't surprised, and I'd been wondering for some time when this would happen. I have a couple hundred feet of wire connecting 12 throttle ports, UTPs in NCE parlance, the WFD31 Wi-Fi adapter, and the radio, all running off that bus. That's far more than NCE recommends. At the ops session, we had 3 tethered throttles and 1 using the radio, plus the Wi-Fi unit all running off the power the command station feeds to the throttle bus. When we plugged in a 4th throttle, everything went haywire. We got it figured out after a few minutes. We verified that all throttles were on unique cab addresses and finally continued running by limiting the number of tethered throttles to 3. After the session, I removed the UTP at the west end of Thermopolis and added a wall wart power supply to it to help power the throttle bus. I had to cut the narrow trace at the X in this shot so the wall wart didn't fight with the power from the command station. Everything functions properly right now, but I don't have enough throttles to stress test the system like it was at the session. I'll have to wait until the next session in July to find out if the wall wart solved the problem. I've been wanting to start building a model of the Walter Schultz Company Grocery Warehouse for the past few months, so I spent several hours this month looking through the archives at the Natrona County Library in Casper and at the Western History Center at Casper College. The building is still there, and a few years ago I took photographs of the 3 accessible faces. It's now the home of Rocca's Pizzeria and Art 321. While the basic building is the same as before, it underwent major renovations around 2012, All the doors and windows have been replaced with modern inserts. I've only found 2 vintage pictures. This one of the front of the building in 1962 is a big help, and this one, taken by my friend Kurt Brown years ago before the CNW tracks were removed. The grocery warehouse is in the distance on the left. I'd like to find a picture or 2 of the side of the building so I can see what the doors and windows were like before the renovations happened. I'll keep searching, but at some point I'll simply make a guess at how they used to look and build the model accordingly. And we come to the end of another update. In May, I should get the ice house onto the layout, and I'll certainly finish rewiring the tracks around the Casper turntable. Hopefully, with Dave and Steve's help, I'll finally start pushing tracks into Lander as well. I also might begin work on the mechanism of the 262 Prairie I bought back in 2023. Kevin from Harriman has generously offered to install a decoder and sound for me, but I have to get the model remotored and running smoothly first. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next month. When last we met, I'd just run the first train into Glen Rock in late March of 2007. Heavy spring rains brought water seeping into the basement, so for the month of April I focused on building the coaling tower that now stands in Casper on the current layout. By early May, the coaling tower was complete. The water in the basement receded, and by mid-May I had the coaling tower temporarily in place in Laurel. Late May saw completion of the Glen Rock siding. Because of ongoing house renovations, June saw practically no work on the layout. And that's the way it was in the second quarter of 2007. Thank you and good night from all of us at CB&Q News.